This is Jackie with Jackson Rose. I'm coming to you on a Sunday in April on the banks of the Mississippi River. Outside my door, I can hear a lock filling up with water. The magnolias are just finishing, the red buds are in bloom, the birds, the breeze. It's a beautiful day. I hope that it's beautiful where you are too. If you're new here, hello, I'm so glad you're here. If you're a returning viewer, thank you. You are such a lifeline to me. This channel has brought so many wonderful people into my life and so many friends from around the country, around the world. And those friendships are things that I continue to rely on right now, especially as I've moved to a new place. Really, for the first time in my life, I am not living in the town I was born and raised in, but I'm in a small town on the Mississippi River. And you might be able to hear right outside my door, I'm on a ridge, and beneath that ridge is the Mississippi River and the locks, and I can hear them working. And there's also a railroad. So I hear lots of river sounds, which is really beautiful. And of course, this has been the land of birds for me. I moved Christmas Day in 2024, and I arrived to a whole ridge line of bald eagles for months, keeping me company, followed by pelicans. And now it seems to be there's some songbirds are filling in. So I have a front porch and a back porch and a pair of binoculars and knitting and much to watch. I have always, don't we all love watching spring unfold? So the project, though, that has taken me through this transition is called the ribbon shawl. And I want to share the ribbon that started it off. There's this beautiful piece of ribbon, and this was from a dear friend of mine. I can't read her mind, but how I received it was to bless that choice, bless that courage, bless this act of moving toward love, and as a remembrance of her, because she found this at Loop in London as a treasure that she brought home, a little treasure. And since I've been here, I've been obviously it's all new, everything's new, but I have this little ribbon and it's a token of friendship and of love and of promise and of change and of treasure and all those things. And I guess I have to say I've always loved that ribbons are like that. I've always marveled at ribbons and these small pieces of beauty that we adorn ourselves with, whether we wrap gifts with them, wrap them in our hair, wrap them around our waist, around our neck, tie things with them. There's this tradition of tying a ribbon on something as a symbol. And so the symbol that I have had for this ribbon is just connection and friendship. And I wanted to make something that had this same dynamic quality of a ribbon, of something you chose, but something that delighted you, that something that expressed a little bit of excess delight, joy, maybe on something that was otherwise plain. So the ribbon shawl is part of my response to that. And one of the things that's a huge joy for me is that I I've been able to work with Pearl Soho very closely. So if you're new here, you may or may not know that it was 5 years ago, actually, that when I did the channel Caddy Jacks Knits with Caitlin, we ran something called the Half Wrap Cal. And this was the linen quill yarn, and we admired it so much. I mean, look at this thing. It's just glorious.
It's huge.
And they have such fantastic color. And this was a time where COVID had set in, and these giant linen quill bicolor shawls were something that were very abiding and witnessing and connecting back then. I knit many of these, and it was a glorious situation where you chose two colors that you loved and you knit with them and you spent time with those two colors. And then I think it was 2 years ago, I had knit so many of these half and half wraps that I decided to do, I needed more colors. So I introduced 4 colors, and that was the Soho square. That was a joy, and I have a couple of those. I think I have one nearby, let me grab it. Here's a Soho square, so it just is something that introduces more color. These bands of color that intersect, you can see how where the black meets the red, and you know, either way showing, but you get the little pop of the alternative color, and where the colors pop out I found so delightful. And linen quill itself is just this wonderful yarn that is so, you know, it's 15% linen, 35% alpaca, and then the rest is, you know, is wool. So it has this, and they're garter shawls, and they're quite, they have just the best feel. This feel I adore. So this is the Soho square. In linen quill, I've knit 3 of these now. I think I knit something like 5 or 6 half and half wraps. This past winter, I decided to invest in the linen quill. They have these mini skein sets, which I thought was so wonderful to have even more color. And at that time last year, I introduced something called Shrug Season. And this was the Advent shrug, and it is used with linen quill minis. And the palette here was pulled out of a beautiful library picture that I had. And I used that to choose the colors, and each day of the Advent, I added to it. And so this is from Shrug Season, and this is made from the linen quill minis, which look a little bit, I have some of them here. They look like this, you know, and it's like having a big box of Crayola crayons. It's just delightful. This I did leading up to the move and moving into this new home, which has a library, and this is beautiful in that library. And I know, for instance, right now, Sandy by the Lakeside is working on her Advent shrug. And this is Shrug Season is the pattern. And it's a full skein of some main color and then all of these 24 minis to integrate into it. And that was a delight to have the palette made so big. And in that time period, I started working with Pearl Soho to have an affiliate link. And I really appreciate anybody who's used that affiliate link. I'll list it below. It's permanently in my profile on Instagram, which is dominirose. It's just, if I've inspired you to use linen quill, it's a very nice way of supporting me. It gives me a portion of that so that I can keep doing what I'm doing, find the delight in knitting and share it with you and inspire you to, with palettes and colors and choices and ways to use their, you know, linen quill in your life. So this next shawl is the ribbon shawl, and it has a lot to do with my move. So I'm going to take this off and share it with you and show you what it looks like. I literally, on my Patreon, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate my patrons. They make so much of what I do possible because, of course, with this move, I had to leave the position I was doing in Madison. So this is a transition for me, and it really helps with that transition. And I had Pearl Soho and I'd worked together. I did an artist in residence at the Bounty and in Madison. And when I did that, I was able to have every color of linen quill hanging on the wall. And it is such a delight and so inspiring to see that palette. And I took that palette home and laid it out on my dining room table here and invited people from my Patreon to work with me on selecting colors for their projects, whether it was a Friday Shrug, which is a 9-color use of linen quill. And in fact, the original Friday Shrug was done in linen quill. And then I adapted it and made one in another yarn that I love. But I'm very excited to actually get back to making a couple more Friday Shrugs. I'm gonna wanna put this on very shortly. I had all those yarns out though, and I was helping my patrons make Friday Shrugs. One of them was and they were showing me images from either their own interiors or from artists, or in my case, which I had to return it to the library, there was a cookbook that was out, and it really inspired this palette. When you start, and I have another one started, but when you start one of these, there's such an undertaking, there's such a long knit, and you get to ease your way into it because you just start with a solid color. So the very first thing I did was knit with this crocus bud. But then I wanted to use a broader and much bigger palette, and that's what this ribbon shawl is. I'm interrupting this video that I've been editing with my real self. You know, it's morning. I just woke up, and you know how it is in the spring when you just wake up and you need a shawl because it's not quite warm enough. And I'm going to have my coffee, but I'm going to, in the video ahead, I'm going to ramble a lot. I haven't consolidated my thinking about the shawl, but I'm trying to share it with you, and that's what I want to tell you. I want to tell you that it's a wrap full of paradox, full of comfort and ease and dreams and creative challenges. And yeah, you can literally copy this, but I don't have that ready yet. But the other thing is I could be working on getting it ready privately by myself for months and months, or I can share that with you and open up to you along the way about how I work and what I do. And I'd rather create that way. I'd rather create so that we know each other better. So it won't be the most professional video ahead, but bear with me, and bless you, and thank you for watching. Okay, we'll resume this video now, and I'll go get my coffee. But even to create my own stripes, this was very influenced by being at the Bounty, because the Bounty had all these books about regimental stripes and examples of stripes in history, so I wanted to create some of my own. This is honestly a poem to me. Each one of these drawers has a label, and then you pull it out, and here are the swatches. Seriously? And they even have things like regimental stripes. I didn't even know there was. And you can see how this ribbon almost shows up right in here. Instead of being 4 colors, I think I don't actually know off of the top of my head. There are 2 main colors though. This navy and burgundy are the 2 main colors that you'll see again. And then there was this big pop, this pink, which is magnolia blue, which is a linen quill color that was new last year. So once I get to the point where I get to join the new color, I will either go this direction, the classic, timeless direction, or I will go this direction. I'm telling myself, I don't know. I haven't decided. So you'll see, and I can't really know until I get there. And there was a color I saw on a lot of the runways for spring that was so beautiful, and this is pale celery. This is a glorious color. I just I haven't figured out how to use it yet, but I want to use it in something. Not sure quite yet. I think it would look lovely though, maybe even just as a mini mock neck with a little, like, look at this, like, you know, with the collar up here and here and here in this color maybe, and just wearing that with jeans, I think would be amazing. So that's the Soho Square that I had wanted to use, Magnolia Blossom, that I had wanted to use last year and didn't end up using it in the shawl. In fact, many of these colors, if I linked that episode, you could see how I am taking things that I couldn't use in my last Soho Square and putting them in here. But it was interesting because even just developing this side of the ribbon, it was really a practice in listening and waiting and listening to what feels right, what feels right, what feels right. And I ripped out so many times to get the balance and to get the dynamic and the color that I wanted. And to be honest, we know this, but I need to say it couldn't be more true of this, that the color is far more beautiful in real life than I'm seeing on my phone here. I was very well aware that I wanted the second half to express an attitude, a creative approach to being in this, and not having a strict binary where one way is right and one way is wrong, where there's an opportunity to consider understanding, to consider difference. So I wanted to create another set of ribbon on the other side that structurally wasn't the same. It has, but you can see how very related it is. It is not, these stripes aren't the same width or anything like that, but they definitely speak to that. And this side of the ribbon shawl also has the main color, the blue and the burgundy, as the main color of the stripe. But instead of expressing Magnolia Blossom, it expressed this other green, which I love too. And so it was like saying, I could easily imagine, this is me and this is Richard. I could imagine this as being, you know, someone that comes from a city and this is something in a rural situation. There are all sorts of binaries I could imagine here, but the whole point within it is that there's so much that we have in common, that if we just focus on the pink and the green, what's different about us, or the shapes of the stripes, that's a choice. But we could also be looking for, like, how are you hurting? How do you love? Who do you love? What can I find that I have in common with you? And of course, in my move to a totally different town, that's what I've been wanting to do. And so this side speaks to this living in one world and seeing one way most of my life, and coming to another place and needing to see, still being me, but needing to see in a different way, different points of view. And of course, for me, this is very symbolic of being along the Mississippi River and whatnot. But again, all of the change and all of the, like, self-making, all of these ribbons, as far as a creative practice, it required so much trial and error and so much listening to myself and so much ripping out and trying things again to have satisfactory ribbons that express something different yet relate to each other. So let me show you what that looks like. I'll put it on this way. This is the other side of the ribbon. And it also has quite a few colors, many more colors than the Soho Square. And so there it goes. And and these shawls, the making of these shawls is what's so important to me, and why I'm putting this video up with you today, because I feel like it's important grounding practice to choose colors that speak to you. And so in choosing, and also to stretch oneself and to stretch one's palette, and to understand that something in a small amount can have a lot of impact, and something that you're safe with, that you feel comfortable with, that it puts you at ease, has its necessary role too. But this has this dynamic in it for me of self-knowledge and just the surety of garter stitch and just that comfort of that sort of making, but also the dynamic expression of change and growth and reaching to understand something that maybe doesn't come naturally to me. And so the second half of this ribbon is all about my reaching and listening and trying to be open to other ways of seeing the world, and the second half. And I will say, in making this, I mean, you could treat it as an object that you want and literally make exactly the same thing. Or you can let yourself be on an odyssey and of creating for yourself the ribbon that speaks to you. The ribbon, like this side of the shawl for me, is just exactly what I love, and it's easy for me to, embrace. But I'm so glad that I have another side and that I can see something a different way. So these ribbon shawls are meant to find commonality. And frankly, in all of the upheaval that we're going through, and I'm not blithely unaware of it, I'm deeply aware of it. And I have books and books I've been reading, but I'm not going to pontificate on any of that, except to say that it is my fundamental belief that the end game is to find our commonality, to be able to work towards problems and solutions together, and to be able to reflect on where I need to change and what I need to improve, and how I can be more vigorous in my life and more compassionate in my life. And that is just my choice, and other people can show up how they want to and need to. I am not telling anyone how to be, but this act of making this for me is very much an act of affirming all of our humanity and knitting through it. So I would have these periods of ease when I was knitting the big solid color, and that willingness to listen and get it right. What does right mean? Right just means that my inner knowing recognized it and said, yeah, that was what I was after. And I didn't shortchange that inner knowing for some intermediary, having somebody outside me say, oh, that's cute, that's pretty, I like that enough. No, I needed to like it enough. The ribbon shawl, I'm very excited to share it with you. I've immediately started another one. And this time around, I started the process by swatching the ribbon first, and swatching and swatching and swatching and playing with colors that way, and then going into the shawl. It's not a published pattern at this point, but it's certainly something I'm going to be working on in Patreon with Patreon folks on coming up with their ribbons and their colors. And I'm not trying to keep it from you. It's just that it's very much an experience of that I feel is different than I want that object, and I'm just going to make that object. It is actually an invitation into being with the discomfort of the change, being with the uncertainty of the times, fortifying yourself, knowing it is who you are, what you love, what inspires you. And then on the other hand, like also being somebody who's capable of taking in new information and listening and seeing things a different way and wondering to yourself, finding compassion, but trying to put yourself in their shoes. But in terms of color, I really I want to challenge people to that idea of being good with color is really just I think an idea that is an idea of being willing to listen to yourself and being willing to listen not just to what you like, but listen to what you don't like and make a change. If you don't like something, make a change and keep working on it until you do like it, until it does. So you could certainly, you don't need, if you have the half and half triangle wrap, which is a free pattern by Pearl Soho. It's funny, it's wonderful, and you can see why Pearl Soho, it would make sense for them to have a free pattern and then sell 6 skeins of yarn. You can understand why it would make sense for me if I spent months and months and months developing the Soho square. You could understand why it would make sense for me to sell a pattern, because everyone has these offerings. So while I want to offer things to you for free, I also have to be able to sustain myself and honor the work that I've put into things. And really the work with this shawl, I feel like is best supported in, if I were you, what I would want for you is to have an experience I had, which is use your stash yarn for these ribbons, or buy yourself one of these linen quill mini sets so you have a huge palette to work through, because in nature likes to oversupply, like it has an abundance. And if we want to be creators, and the ultimate creator is nature, and nature has abundance. So get yourself a lot of color and know that you'll need to trial and error, and that's okay. When this is ready to be a palette, is to have ribbons pre-designed, and you can just go, oh, I like that ribbon and that ribbon, I'm going to put those ribbons together, and just choose your main colors. Because you could see how, I'm sorry for the lawn noises, you could see how this ribbon could be beautiful on a different color background. And I also want to do, like with most of my patterns, I like to do them in different sizes and in different yarns and have them ready. But I wanted to alert you, I wanted to show you the prototype now, because I just find it, I found it like probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever made. And just complex idea that I needed. I needed the hope that these ribbons represent to me, and I needed the comfort that this garter represents to me. I wrote a poem yesterday for the ribbon wrap called The Ribbon Recipe, which I just want to share with you on this video too, because this wrap is so much about the struggle and the ethos behind it. So it goes, the ribbon recipe. Start with an indulgence, the delicious kiss of color you've been craving, what you can't resist, and let it be. Let it wait. Let it be the love you come back to. Magnolia blossom. And I don't know if you recall, if you've been here before, but I wanted to knit a Soho square last year before I went to Scotland. And I was debating if I would use magnolia blossom in that. I had held that up. I had held this pale celery up as a possibility. Sure. But I used the chestnut red, and I didn't use those other ones, but they've been sitting there for a long time in me. As well as this palette has been sitting there for a long time in me, for years. So it's very nice to get to express a palette that's just been at the back. So that's the What's your color that you haven't had an opportunity to knit with yet, but that's been calling to you? And it goes on to say, then pick your MCs, like the pet that loves you, softly waiting to welcome you home. Crocus bud, reed gray. I mean, there's so much in the construction of this shawl that these are, for me, infinitely wearable in my wardrobe. Colors that the long hours of knitting that I'll be okay sitting with, that will stand the test of time for me because they're ones I love so much. Crocus bud being sort of newer in that realm, and reed gray, though, an old standby, of course, gray. And a lot of the construction of these pieces is that bearing witness and just being with yourself and garter, just like the initial half and half triangle wrap. It's just this steady, non-confrontational ease, witnessing, giving you an opportunity to listen to yourself. It says, there are two more to notice, the steady pair, good habits like sunrise and sunset. All of us a patriot of something. And that's the ethos behind this shawl, is we have more in common than we think. 60% of the colors in either side of the ribbons are the same colors. And they have the same essential dynamic of two paired ribbons with a central ribbon on either side. So they're structurally similar, and the colors are similar, but they're not identical. And I would never want them to dissolve into identical. I would never want the colors to just become a mush of one color. It was very easy for me to imagine with this move, with our political times, or, city, country, you name it. There's so many binaries that we struggle with right now. And yet I find that it's really, really important to embrace and be kind and know what you love, and also be able to imagine that other people love different things than you, and that that's okay, and just allow for that. And that the second half of this shawl, this ribbon, is literally an act of my imagination, an act of my, incorporating whatever for me is other, and letting it exist in my world, not for my approval or disapproval, but it just is. It just is. And here they are, coexisting harmoniously. And that harmony feels really good to knit right now while things are so challenging. And it's the same with needing something that is restful and relaxing, and something that's intellectually engaging. So the ribbon bands in here are more of a challenge. If you choose to make your own ribbons and design your own, it's not easy. It's actually one of the hardest things I've ever done. And so I'm so worthwhile. If it was so worthwhile sticking through it. So it says you have, and those two colors that are the body of what mostly they have in common, what I made sure of, is this chestnut red and dark denim on both sides. It says, the rest is wily living. Life on the streets, off the shelf, the great experiment, imagination. Who are you, and with whom do you share this precious one and only now? Let the two sides be different. The task is to stay open, temporary, blooming, and letting your petals drop. That's ribbon. Your colors of hope filling your hands, wrapping your heart in fortifying love for all of us. So this ribbon shawl is just that. It is meant to include all of us. And that's the joy for me in the design, is that inclusiveness and that stretching to understand. Now, it can just be a pretty object, and that's okay too, but that's the spirit in which I made it. And I feel like I'm in a good position to make it because I have been disrupted in all ways recently with the relocating and moving away from my family and moving to a small town and being in a place where I have to strive to understand how things are done differently. It's been hard, and it's been good for me, and this is what's come out of it, and this is what my offering is to you in the ribbon wrap. It is 4 skeins of the main colors, 2 of one, 2 of the other. I don't have a pattern written up yet because I want to do it. I want to do it in multiple sizes, and I'm experimenting with multiple ribbons. Here's my next one right here. And in this case, this is one of their new browns, and I just think it's so beautiful. You can see it's the color of my bedroom too. But this one is for Richard, and I'm challenging myself to express a palette that I can see myself wearing and I can see him wearing as well. It was such a joy to make him the rascal scarf. So I'm challenging myself to design with colors that aren't just, just for the intellectual pleasure of playing with color. I want to say the big lesson that I take from designing, if I could say it over and over, is have an overabundance of color at your disposal. Because you have to be able to have trial and error. I cannot tell you how many times I ripped out or ripped back. Like, for instance, I was through this band and I decided this needed to be a different color. And I had to rip all this out to do that. And I find that even as I tried swatching for my next one, the ribbons first. And to some degree that works because I have gone through a bunch of things that I didn't want to do with my swatches that seemed like good ideas, and they only took like a day to do rather than weeks. Whereas at the same time, there's something to be said for the momentum of getting going and seeing and being with the color and then starting to feel into the next colors for your ribbon. So you have a general game plan. But my idea, if you're planning and waiting for the pattern to be released, is you already know how to do this with a half and half triangle wrap, how to pick your 2 main colors. And you already know with the Soho square how to pick 2 colors that will these 4 main colors that will go together. And to be honest, I think it wouldn't be that hard for the 5th color to go, this is a color this is this magnolia blossom color for me, that maybe it's like one that I wouldn't wear all the time, or it's just one that means a lot to me for this band right in here, or I see an image, something that makes me feel, because you want these things, you want the joy of knitting for yourself is these talismans, these markers. So for me, of course, this ribbon very specifically is a friendship that offered me a great deal of support and love and connection. So it's just like built right into my shawl, that feeling, that sense. And on this side, of course, this central panel is, of course, the Mississippi River that I live through. And so when you do those, you can buy, you can get exactly this, but it won't mean the same thing for you. And so the real beautiful thing that we do on Patreon is we work together to figure out what colors mean for you, what ones you're drawn to, etc. And we work through that creative process. So I love that, and I appreciate those. I have monthly Zooms over there, and those that are in the classroom tier participate in them, and then those the other members can watch them afterward. And I really find they're almost like going for a walk. They feel like, oh, I have to set aside this time to do it and set an alarm and make sure that, I'm presentable. but I always feel so enlivened and lift up and just enjoy the quality, the creative conversations we have. So even if you are not in the classroom tier, I think they're very, very different and valuable, heartfelt conversations about why we make and what it does for our being. So my patrons, I thank you so much for your support. And over there, I tend to preview my work and share things in a reciprocity that's a little different than the straightforward marketplace of Instagram. I do work with Pearl Soho. I do have affiliate link, and it really does help me. And I don't feel dishonest about it at all, because I feel like I have a genuine love for Linen Quill and their palette, and I feel fantastic working with their yarn and supporting this beautiful product. And if I've inspired that in you, I really appreciate you using that affiliate link. It doesn't increase it. It's just a little extra effort you have to go to. You'll find it at the bottom of this video, or you'll find it if you go to Instagram. You go to my profile and there's links, and you just click that link, and then when you use it, it gives me a portion of the sale if you're using something that I've talked about in my videos, like Linen Quill. And the wonderful thing that they did recently is they made those mini skein sets, and which is like a box of crayons that you give yourself, that you have so much room to play with. Because of course, for instance, in this particular shawl, I have 2 rows of pale celery here on this side, and let me just look and see, do I have any over here? No, I don't have any. So I have 2 rows of pale celery in this whole shawl, but I can use my mini skeins, and I have the benefit. Now, could you make this with just having this green one time? Like this green, this green, this green, and this green could all be the same green. But because I had those mini skeins, I can use 4 different shades of green and really like add some complexity to it, and it feels more painterly to me. And so that's a benefit of having those for yourself to work with and to play around with. And then the other piece, which I love, let's pretend you buy full skeins. Well, the fabulous thing is the thing I've been talking about for a very long time, is knitting interrelated pieces. So you can imagine that your leftover skeins would make an incredible garment to go under here. I want to do that, but I'm working on developing this as a traditional pattern later in the year. So I don't know that I'll have time for that immediately. But that's the intention. And I guess the last piece I want to share with you, and I have shared it, is to have patience with yourself, with your mistakes, because I have to say that it is the vehicle with which we tune in and listen to ourselves. So when I knit this initial ribbon full of excitement, it looked fine, but it didn't satisfy me. And I'm so glad I listened. It's a different kind of dissatisfaction than being hard on myself or critical of myself or just a perfectionist. It was like, oh, I'm not there yet. And I held with how I wanted it to feel. And I had to keep going and going and going until I could rest in, this is what I wanted. And I'm so grateful for that. And I feel so enriched by that, that if you so choose, I encourage you to have that same experience in your making. If you have different priorities right now and different constraints on you, of course, I'm never saying one way is right or wrong, but I like to talk about the creative experience, because because I can, because I know about it and I want to share about it. And that to me is every bit, and in fact more valuable than any of the products. You are the valuable thing. You and how you go through the world and how you talk to yourself and how you feel about your things and how you interact with others. I know that I could be wearing the shawl, walking around in my head, and someone will see it and respond to me completely differently. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's lovely. And it snaps me into, oh, how fantastic. I have an opportunity to talk to a stranger or whatever it is. So those benefits of making are available for all of us, and they thrill me so much. And I guess I just want to say, I've really discovered something I love in stripes, in ribbons. I feel like stripes are, I don't know, they're like to color work. You don't have to have any special techniques, and you can really master color work, proportion of color, color balance in these safe things like stripes. You don't have to know how to knit with two hands. You don't know how to trap your floats, do jacquard knitting, do intarsia knitting. You don't have to have it fit you in any particular way. It really just invites you to be an artist. Stripes do. And I love that about them. And I have learned so much from stripes. And so this is Ribbons. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. And I look forward to showing you more and making more. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay, take care. Bye.